Banks operate through something called a fractional reserve banking system, which means that if I take $100 that I earn from my job and I deposit this $100 in my bank, the bank isn't going to just keep this $100 in a vault somewhere. They're going to immediately work to lend out most of this money. So typically banks are required to leave somewhere between 10% of this money in reserves. So if I deposit $100 in the bank today, I get a receipt saying that I have $100 in the bank. But then the bank is going to take this and they're going to take the $90 out of my 100 and they're going to lend it out to somebody else. Now, the bank only has $10 of mine still in the bank. However, I can go and withdraw $100 anytime. But the bank doesn't have my $100. So what happens there? It might be a little bit easier if I diagram it out. So here I am with a mustache, or as we like to call it in my native language, Punjabi, a much. I deposit $100 in the bank. Now the bank is going to give me a receipt saying that I have $100 and I can withdraw this cash anytime I want. But immediately after I give the bank this $100, they're going to work to loan out $90 to this lady right here who has a braid, or as we like to call it in my native language, Punjabi, a gut. Now she has $90 out of the 100 that I gave the bank, but I can still get my 100 back anytime I want. Now this lady who has $100 is gonna go and purchase something. Let's say she buys, I don't know, we can buy some extra guac from Chipotle. And now Chipotle is gonna take this cash and they're gonna put it in their own bank. So now this is bank 2, and bank 2 is gonna get a $90 deposit. Now what happens? Bank 2 gets $90 and it says that this $90 can be withdrawn at any time. However, bank 2 isn't going to keep $90 in their vault. They're going to take almost all of this. They're going to take 90% of this and then they're going to lend it out to somebody else. And so now this is going to be around $80 that gets lent out to person number 3. Now what happens? I can still go to the bank and pull out my $100. She can still go to the bank. I'm going to assume now that we didn't go to Chipotle, but if she just deposited this in her own bank account, she can go and pull out her $90 anytime she wants. Person number 3 can do the exact same thing. So what happens is you deposit $100 in the bank, but anytime you do that, you are producing more inflation through the banking system because banks work with an entity called the Federal Reserve Bank, and if everybody tried to pull their cash out, well, then banks would run out of money, and that's where they can work with the Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank, who keeps funding the banks in case they need more cash. However, this system is called fractional reserve lending, which allows the banks to lend out money that they don't even have. This fractional reserve lending system goes on and on and on, and what happens is for every dollar that you deposited, $20 on average gets created. So the banking system, the fractional reserve banking system, is inherently inflationary by nature because anytime somebody deposits money in the bank is going to work to lend that money out and print more money because it allows the banks to make big profits because they can keep lending out the same money again and again and again. But in order for this banking system to work and for it to produce inflation, it needs people and it needs institutions to keep borrowing money. So let's talk about now how people create inflation. So we have this happy couple here and they collectively earn $100,000 a year, and let's assume that out of this they also have $40,000 in savings. Now they want to go out and they want to buy this home, which is on sale for, let's just say, $200,000. Now, they don't have the cash to go out and buy this home. So what do? Well, they go to the bank and they say, hey, bank, we have 40 grand in the bank. We're making 100 grand a year. We want to buy this $200,000 home. And the bank is going to say, great, we would love to finance you. You have the cash for a 20% down payment. We will lend you the other $160,000. This money is coming from the bank. Well, this bank has to get this money from somewhere, and it's coming from the deposits, and it goes back to the fractional reserve banking system. The banks don't just have all this money there. They have to create some of this money. So this money essentially has to be created out of a fractional reserve banking system. That way the bank can give you the money to go out and buy this property because you are taking out a loan, which is debt. And debt is when you're using tomorrow's future earnings. That way you can spend it today because you don't have the cash to go out and buy this $200,000 property, because if you did, you'd be operating on a money-based system. But we're not operating on a money-based system. We're operating on a credit-based risk-based system, which means you're not spending money based off of how much cash you have, you're spending money based off of how much credit you qualify for. In this case, you can qualify for a $160,000 loan. So we're printing more money is entering our economic circulation, and this then helps you go out and buy this property. And when this happens on a bigger and bigger scale, well, that also helps drive home prices up, because now more and more people can qualify to buy a home. If it's easier for somebody to get a loan, if it's easier to qualify for more credit, more people are going to want to buy a home, which means more people are going to want to get a mortgage. If more people are getting mortgages, more people are going to want to buy a home. Home prices are going up. Banks are going to have to make more loans, which in turn creates more inflation, right? It goes back to the actual currency being produced, because when there's more money out there, well, more people are going to want to buy homes, which pushes home prices up. It comes at its root from the currency and how much currency there is. When you have more currency out there, the value of each individual dollar goes down, causing the price of things to go up. That's why when money is plentiful and the Fed is printing money and the Fed is cutting interest rates, home prices go up, because then demand for homes go up, because now people want to take this cash and credit that they can qualify for and they want to buy a home. Institutions work the same way, just on a bigger scale, because now these institutions are looking for a way for them to invest their money. And what they're saying is, well, if we save our money in the bank, banks are going to give us a 0% return, maybe a 0.1% return on our money, which in reality is actually a very big negative return, because when inflation is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, well, that means that we're losing value to inflation every single day. So saving is a 0% return, which in reality is a negative big return. The next thing is, well, maybe we can put our money into a CD that the bank is offering. And up until the early part of 2022, bank CDs were also paying essentially 0%, which meant that if you put your hundreds of millions of dollars into a CD, you would get no return, and actually you'd be losing value to inflation. Then they look at something like a bond, a treasury bond. These are your traditional risk-free investments. This is where you would loan money to the government through something called a treasury bond. Anybody can go out and buy a treasury bond. But again, they've been paying extremely low returns, where if you put your money into a treasury bond, you'd be losing value to inflation every single day. So these were under 3%, even under 2%, and even under 1% in some cases. So we're talking about 1 to 2% returns on your money, and this is kind of even on the higher end in some instances. But you were getting very low returns on these bonds, because now, again, inflation is eating away your profits and returns here. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the shorter clip from the longer videos, here's another clip that I think you'll love. And if you're interested in learning more about how to invest your money in the stock market, our team put together an amazing guide that will walk you through how to invest your money in the stock market, what the stock market is, different stock market strategies, and how to build wealth in the stock market. This guide is completely free when you sign up for our daily newsletter. So if you want to read this guide, all you got to do is click that button right over there. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep hustling.